So yesterday there was a very exciting news from NASA that they found some chemicals, the Perseverance, which apparently are biogenic. Okay, and that namely they are trying to give us an impression that possibly they have come from some life form, maybe microbial life form, or maybe some kind of fossil, some kind of organic compound. Of course, there are claims also that these kind of compounds can also be produced in the laboratory. So what they have found is not a sure shot proof that life once existed on Mars. In fact, to do that you need to bring them here and do sophisticated analysis. But I like to discuss what is a possibility that the Mars could have had this kind of life. Okay, and let us come back to the solar system, the beginning of the solar system, how the solar system formed. At about 4.6 billion years ago, solar system was formed and the Earth and the Mars were produced almost at the same time. But difference is Earth is about twice as big as that of the Mars. The diameter of the Earth is about 12,800 km and Mars is 6,800 km. The central temperature of the Earth is about 5,500 to 6,000 degrees centigrade, and central temperature of the Mars is only 1,500 to 1,700 degrees centigrade. Why? Because the Mars was smaller, so it cooled down very quickly. And as soon as it cooled down, its molten, its core became hard and it no longer produced magnetic field. So the first casualty of this cooling down or having the mass lower, Mars of lower mass, is that the first casualty is that magnetic field disappeared from Mars. And once the magnetic field disappeared, the cosmic rays and the energetic particles directly hit the Mars's atmosphere, and atmosphere was evaporated. Once atmosphere is evaporated, the sea is also evaporated because it is basically vacuum. Atmosphere is vacuum, so sea also evaporated. Of course, atmosphere is not vacuum, its density is about 1/10 of that of the Earth, but the matter is mostly carbon dioxide. Okay. Let us come back to Earth. What was happening on Earth? On the Earth, because of dynamo action, magnetic field was generated and it remains that way. Of course, the poles are changing, switching signs, all this is happening, but magnetic field is remaining there as a very strong component. And this magnetic field's job is to block the charged particles, and these charged particles get stuck and they cannot penetrate the magnetic field and these charged particles, and they cannot hit the Earth's atmosphere and evaporate it. Okay? Because of that, Earth has a stable atmosphere, life form got a stable place to evolve. Now about 3.7 billion years ago, on Earth there was cyanobacteria, a monocellular life form like algae, cyan color, and they started producing huge amount of oxygen through photosynthesis. They did not require oxygen for survival. They actually took photons and water and they split water into oxygen and hydrogen, and for about 1 billion years they supplied oxygen into the Earth's atmosphere. And because of that oxygen we are now surviving, and we are breathing that oxygen which was produced by cyanobacteria for 1 billion years. But what was happening in Mars? Suppose cyanobacteria was produced 3.7 billion years ago, even on Mars. It is possible because ocean was there, except that within about 30 or 0.3 billion years, this sea or ocean disappeared. It evaporated. Okay, and so the cyanobacteria could not produce oxygen by photosynthesis, and therefore this terraformation, so called, could not happen on Mars, and life also could not develop. So even if cyanobacteria existed at 3.7 billion years ago, in our case for 1 billion years they produced oxygen and made it terraformed so that the more complex life form can be produced. In Mars's case, complex life form could not be produced. Okay, so this is interesting, and all the time scales match, and therefore there was a possibility, and there is a possibility that Mars did have at least cyanobacteria. Okay, now the question comes that is it impossible or is it surprising? The answer is no. We always are surprised if we find life somewhere, we would be surprised. But in reality, we should not. Because if we are alone, that is very frightening thing. Because in the entire universe, we are alone. That is bad thing. And if the entire universe is full of lives, that is also bad thing. Because they can also come and invade us and so on. So, but in any case, we should not think like anthropocentric way. Namely, everything is revolving around us. We are produced there, they should not be produced, life should not be produced there, life should not be produced there. We are always surprised if somebody finds water in some other place. Why should we be surprised? Water is a molecule and is almost everywhere in the universe, there is water. So, the life form should be there in many places, many planets, and there should not be any surprise about it. And so, we hope that these vials of containing samples of Perseverance, of Mars, that Perseverance actually collected and kept on the Mars, be sometimes brought back. Of course, NASA had a budget cut, and they are therefore trying out with other countries, and that is one of the reasons why they brought this news conference, because these items were actually discovered last year July, and it took about some time to get it through the refereeing process and get published in Nature. But NASA is interested to have collaboration with other countries so that we can visit the Mars back and bring those samples, and we prove once and for all that whether these products, these vivianites, etc., these samples are actually biogenic or non-biogenic. Thank you.